So evil is good, right?
So, of course not. Evil is not good. I would say that if you're only going to see part of the show, you want to see the speech by Farazone, our Farazone's speech. It's worth seeing the whole show just to see that speech because it's really compelling, quote unquote, evil. But we have three characters, but these three characters are Farazone, Theo, Adar, are very complex characters. And they in fact seem more complex than the other characters, especially in this episode, because we're not really clear what their motivation actually is, but we do see that they have a lust for power, and that's all three of them. And then they have deep ties to evil. And the major pluses of this particular episode are really the quote-unquote bad people. They're the most interesting ones. So Farazone, for example, is a duplicitous, complicated character. Theo is also a duplicitous, complicated character. And I mention these two because we're not really clear on their intentions. And if we add on Adar, which means father, the whole idea that really holds this together, or the good parts of this particular episode, are the quote-unquote bad people, because their motivation is actually more complex and there's more depth to their characterization than there are the so-called good people. So Farazone, based on just his behavior, you can easily see in this episode that he's playing both sides of the fence. You see clearly in his speech really what his intentions are, and his intentions are power, and power he will get. I'll also add that the title alone of the episode is pretty powerful in terms of it being called The Great Wave. So I'm not going to get deep into spoilers, but let's just do a metaphor that the Great Wave could also be the emotions up and down that sometimes are simulated or one experiences in the course of a day. Like you might get hit with a wave of anger. You might get hit with a wave of sadness. But you really want to duck from the great wave that'll take you out. Some other pluses that come up in this particular episode are they start bringing in Tolkien spirituality. So there's mention of the different hierarchy of gods. They don't really mention the number one god in this episode, but they do mention the Valar a little bit, which is really powerful. Are there things that don't really work? Yeah, there's strange things, like there's a little bit of Mary Sue-ish kind of stuff going on with Galadriel again, but why focus on that really? And I say that, why focus on that, not because it's not important, and not because it's not good for things to be closer to Tolkien's actual literature, but the fact that considering this may be a consistent topic of discussion, to just complain all the time to me seems very powerless, or it's not really a position of power. To me, just like the Rings of Power, a more powerful place for me to come from are the things that I actually like. So the things that were very, very powerful in this episode were the bad guys. They were powerful. Adar, to sort of like wrap this up, in of himself is sort of like a mystery man. And we don't really know if he's potentially Morgoth. We don't know if he's potentially Sauron. Those things aren't really explained. We do know that he is definitely not a man, and that he's got his own plans, and the orcs see him as their father.
Well, where's this great wave going to take us? Well, time will tell.